Okay, good day. This is Praxis Fireside Chat. Welcome to our chat here today. Today we're going to be talking to Matthew and Sam about Shim's Ride and some of the fundraising that they're going to be doing and hearing a bit more about their stories. So let's just do a quick intro and get right into it. And so, Matthew, who are you and what do you do?
Hi, yeah, thanks for linking together. So I was injured, spinal cord injury, C5, back in 2019, and my friends did a fundraiser for me. They did a really long bicycle ride down from Port Hardy to Victoria. They managed to raise a lot of money, and it was so successful that we decided to try to make it an annual thing. And last year, we raised money for Spinal Cord Injury BC. They also did a long ride. The main source of the fundraising was through selling merchandise, mostly like cycling jerseys, with regards to it being like a cycling ride. But we also sold other stuff, and as well as direct donations. And this year we decided to donate to Praxis. It's a bit different this year with the restrictions coming down from the pandemic. We would like to incorporate more people to participate. So we're trying to make it more of like a registration race, a criterium, which is kind of like a spectator friendly race around a short track. And we're hoping to demo some hand cycles and get the spinal cord injury community involved as well and make it more friendly with regards to that.
Yes, I'd be doing the short track race. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'd be coming down from Port Hardy. So anybody who doesn't know, Port Hardy and Victoria are on Vancouver Island, and I've done that drive. It's a very nice long drive, so I'm sure it was a much longer bike ride coming from Port Hardy down to Victoria, which would have been a very nice scenic cruise. And actually a bit more, how about your injury level? So just to get a bit back with hand cycling too, hopefully, yeah, we'll get out some other racers that will come out and also demo some new styles of bikes and so on. Have you tried some hand cycling, or have you tried any of those devices? So even for myself, so I have done it. I'm a paraplegic, if I haven't brought that up before, but yeah, I'm a T10 incomplete para. And so I don't have much leg movement, but I've got some sensation. And so I'm able to use some hand cranks. What's your injury level, Matthew?
I'm a C5. I have tried cycling before with the initial rehab in the GF Strong equivalent in Toronto. It's the initial rehab that you go to after you come out of the hospital to kind of learn how to do basic stuff and then kind of introduce you to the community. So they tried out. I did get to try out the hand cycle, but it wasn't like fully fitted for me. And also with my level of injury, I don't have triceps, so the push forward was kind of difficult. So I was able to like kind of go on flat ground, but with the combination of the hand cycle not fully fitted to me and just my initial coming out of rehab, I was much weaker back then. It wasn't that great of an experience. But like eventually I would like to try to get back into sports. At the time, the pandemic kind of started. There were like kind of talks about going into wheelchair rugby, and that kind of was appealing to me because it seemed a lot. I would be able to be a lot more competitive in that.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned earlier there's a lot of there's some quadriplegics that play basketball. I don't know how the point system works there, but if I would be able to be competitive in that, then I would love to try that out.
Yep. And it's sports, yeah, in all different sports, and there is a lot of different classification and all the different events. But then even for yourself, with a new injury, And, that's the difference between me and you, that, I've been in for close to 45 years, whereas you're still within the 5-year cycle. And that's, just figuring everything out. I mean, whether it's going to rehab, going to school, getting back to, I always say just getting back to living life. And that's the main thing that you got to do. And yes, think about some of the activities that you still want to do. So that's great that you're still thinking about cycling. And I'd say technology has really changed a lot of things lately. And that I'm sure even with bikes from when you got injured just a few years ago, that things have changed now, that there's power assist, everything is electric nowadays. And so that,
I'm just curious with regards to like on the Olympic team, what level of like injuries were your teammates, or like was there quadriplegics and like on the Olympic level, or?
so for basketball at the Paralympics, there's the Olympics, and then the Paralympics are for the games for athletes with disabilities. And so with basketball, there's many different ranges. So let's say we always had our point system was a class 1 all the way up to 4.5. And so based on your disability, you're put into one of those classification systems. So let's say an amputee who's below the knee, they would be given a 4.5 because they've got the majority still of their muscles. Well, they've got full use of all their muscles, just without ones that they don't have. And then so somebody, let's say, who broke their spine around T4 to T6, which is right around your chest level, then they would probably be given a class 1 designation. And so for myself, I broke my spine right around T10, which is sort of close to the belly button. And so that gave me a 2.5 classification. And so how basketball worked, so everybody was given a point system. And then on the court with the 5 players, you're only allowed up to 14 points in total. So a traditional lineup would be a class 1, 2 2s, and 2 4.5s. And so that equals up to 14 points. And so that's how the coach would select the team. So based on your classification, then that sort of decides where you're going to fit into it. And so same thing with wheelchair rugby, it's different. Hand cycling, it's going to be different there too. And so you're put into different categories. And so when you're ready, you'll get out and try different sports, and then you'll be given a classification that is based on your medical injuries, and then they'll go from there. And it's mainly your function of how much balance and how much control and how many muscles that you do have use of. So
no, that's very cool. I also know like that there's 2 different classes of racing with regards to wheelchair, like around the track, the wheelchair. I know that there's like quadriplegic and
so athletics, again, there's a lot of different classes within athletics, and opens up a lot of doors, as you're finding out too, that you can get out here and try different things, and find out more and more about different sport and programs. So now actually on to the Shim's ride. I think that was pretty unbelievable that your friends joined on and were able to get that race going. I mean, that must have been pretty exciting, going from, well, pretty well biking the whole island. It's pretty well the truth of it. Biking the whole island. Why did that, who came up with that idea?
Well, before my injury, I was a cyclist as well, and I wanted, one of the team members, Cole, suggested to me that we should do that ride just for fun. We like to do challenges as athletes, and we were kind of planning it end of August to do it, and then I got injured before I was able to do it. But Cole came up with the idea that, or I'm not sure if Cole essentially, or it was just Cole, but maybe it was the group together came up with the idea to do that ride that we were planning to raise money for me, which was kind of sentimental, and I was blown away by how much support I received. It was unreal. The amount of money they raised, and spinal cord injury is very expensive, so it helped quite a bit. Like even in Canada with a lot of the stuff covered, like a wheelchair is close to like a new car, essentially, especially a power wheelchair, which initially I had to be in a power wheelchair. But when I transferred over to Ontario, the funding for the government is a bit different. So they covered 75% of the wheelchair, which was a significant portion, but that's still like if the wheelchair, I think the wheelchair was roughly 40,000 altogether, the power chair. So I still had to pay 10,000. And then additionally, I was trying to pursue like being more independent in a manual wheelchair. So I wanted to get a second wheelchair, and there's no funding for that. Yeah, so spinal cord injury is just super expensive, and I was very grateful that they were able to do that. And hopefully with the money that we raised, we're able to pass it on and help other people annually. So like last year, Spinal Cord Injury BC has evolved with a lot of like recreational stuff for people who like first get injured. And then the reason why we wanted to partner with Praxis is because we kind of came together and decided on our mission, vision, and we knew that Praxis had very similar, like it aligned with ours, with like a world without paralysis, or like innovation to make spinal cord injury a lot easier for people. So yeah, that was kind of.
Yeah, I think, yeah, just with even with any peers, that's how I learned about a lot of different things, is finding more and more about chatting with other teammates and other friends, and finding out what they're utilizing, what their, you know, new devices and technology. As I mentioned earlier, technology's changed. As I mentioned, I got injured over 40 years ago, and so even just within the last 10 years, that's, you know, so much has changed, you know, especially with trying to go into a manual chair. There's so many different technologies and different devices that you can try, whether it's a powered wheel or a front drive system, or, you know, a smart drive too. And, you know, a lot of those devices just make it that much easier. And it's great having new guys, engineers that are coming out, and, you know, we're going to hear more about commercialization later on, but yeah, you know, there's just so much more that's available now that you can definitely check on out. And it's always, there's a lot of different opportunities.
Yeah.
I think, actually, do we have another speaker on? Are we going to hear from Sam that's going to tell us a bit more about the Shim's ride and a bit more of their history too?
Yeah, I think Shim actually covered most of it there, but yeah, as you mentioned, we did the long ride in the first 2 years, just kind of the three of us. And then I think last year we had, the first year we did it was in the kind of heat of COVID, so we couldn't really plan. And there were many other people that kind of inspired us to do long rides like that. Like there was, you know, a number of different pretty cool fundraising initiatives that were done in 2020, especially, and just people getting out there and something to do. But then in 2021, we had the opportunity to ride. We did the ride changed a little bit. So 2020, we rode from Port Hardy to Victoria and Vancouver Island. Then 2021, we were going to ride from Kelowna to Victoria, but the smoke was quite bad, or it was kind of, the conditions were uncertain. So we changed it we rode from Hope, and we did a few kind of out and backs out to Chilliwack Lake, Harrison Hot Springs, and out and around Delta, and then over to Victoria. And when we got into Victoria, we met up with maybe 30 to 40 of Shim's Ride supporters who rode with us into town the last 30K or so. And then we had a pretty sweet event because Shim was in town. And so everyone kind of met up with us at Oak Bay Bikes, which is a local bike shop that has been hugely supportive of everything that we've done since day one. They were actually, so Oak Bay Bikes is the bike shop in Victoria, and then their bike team is, they're called the Victoria Wheelers. and they were the ones that kind of got all four of us introduced into cycling and into kind of like the local racing group ride scene in Victoria, which is really amazing. And there's lots of guys there that are, they ride hard, they ride well, but they're also very inclusive and always very open into to adding new people onto their team and into their group. So they like, without the wheelers and without Oak Bay Bikes, honestly, this ride would not be happening. So, but anyways, Oak Bay Bikes was gracious enough to host a barbecue at their bike shop in the patio at the end of last year's ride. And Shim came as well. So I think that was the first time like you saw a bunch of people, and the atmosphere was really cool. It was just cool to finally get everyone out. We'd had support obviously online with sales and stuff like that, but to get everyone out there in person kind of made us realize that that was actually probably the best part of the ride. So this year we scratched the 500K ride, and instead we will be doing, as Shim mentioned, a crit. So there'll be a race called Shim's Crit, and all of the proceeds raised from that race will be donated to Praxis. And then that same day in the evening, we'll be doing our barbecue, which was similar to what we did last year. Again, it will be at Oak Bay Bikes. And so, yeah, that'll be on July 30th. And yeah, that's where we're at.
Cool. Sounds like fun. Is there any social media, or can anybody check out any guys' information and where they can?
The platform is on Instagram at Shim's Ride. And then we also do have a website, shimsride.ca, where you can go to check out. There's a couple recaps of the first year and the second year ride, as well as if you want to go on there and buy the 2022 Shim's Ride jersey, mountain bike or road. And you can also go to our website to donate directly to Praxis through the Canada Helps page.
You guys are donating towards Praxis, and then also last year with SCIBC. So I think those are great, both initiatives with them. And I think we're going to hear a bit more from our Praxis coworker, Arushi, and is going to tell us more about the commercialization program.
Richard, and thank you so much, Matthew and Sam, for joining us. And it's just so exciting that this is finally happening. I know there's been just an incredible amount of work behind the scenes, and seeing it all come together, seeing everyone from the community come together, it's just going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Arushi, did you want to give us a quick breakdown of what the commercialization program is doing and where some of these funds are going to benefit towards?
Yeah, so what we're really trying to do at Praxis is, as Matthew mentioned, is we're trying to look at improving the lives of as many people as possible by finding the right technology that for reasons of lack of support, lack of resources, lack of mentorship, lack of access, don't get to see the light of day. And so people with spinal cord injury are living with technology, or living with tools that they could get a huge improvement on, but are not yet available for really reasons we want to address. And so really the outcome of this funding is to be able to, using our team of researchers, OTs, PTs, people like yourself, Richard, to find the best technology that would have the biggest impact for people with spinal cord injury across the board, and fast tracking that so that you're not waiting 20 years for this technology to come out. It's coming out sooner, and it's actually technology that's supported by the community and by specialists. A lot of times the wrong technology is supported in people with spinal cord injury, as you've taught me, Richard. That's not what's benefiting them, or it's not in their interest. So how can we get community-driven impact to get the right technology? So it means so much that, Shim and the team are supporting us, because it just proves out our mission of being driven by what the community needs to find the best tools. And those tools can be anything from, and I think one company's joining is, axle to power if you don't have a power wheelchair to move you around, an electric axle. So it's green as well, but it's really cheaper for you to actually power yourself around and actually be much more mobile and independent. It can also be dealing with bladder and bowel issues, as most people have challenges in that area, and even just the right to catheters. To your point, Matthew, you'd think in Canada everything's covered. Things are not covered, and so you pay so much extra with a disability, even in the bladder and bowel area. What about pain, right? Most people I've talked to in spinal cord injury in the last several years experience some level of pain. So what if we made even a small, and that's our colleague Chris always says, even a small incremental dial on pain or bladder could really have a huge impact in, freeing up the time and energy for this community to contribute more than they're already contributing to our society.
Yeah. And even for you, Matthew, this is still very early for you, but it's, we do have one of my parts working with Praxis is with a consumer engagement team. And so we've got a wide level of SCI injuries, from a high level quadriplegic down to incomplete paras. And so we have a wide different perspective on life, and just with all the different innovations and programs that are coming through. And so that's one of the big things, that now it is great to have a lot of people with lived experience to come out and provide some of that input and say, all right, here, you've designed a new wheelchair or a new bike, but all right, well, hold on, this benefits me. For yourself, like a bike that I use is going to be totally different from a bike that you're going to try and find out that's going to work best for you too. So that's where we can add that also. Arushi, how has it changed so I just started working with Praxis within the last couple of years. How's that changed, Arushi, with having people with lived experience helping out with the commercialization team and program?
First thing I'd say is there's still so much more room to go. This is just the beginning of the journey. But I think it's just completely revolutionized the space, even in the few years I've been part of this. So what's really interesting is, before, there was an interpretation that people with spinal cord injury, just engage with them. Just give them the news, give them the good news. And I'm saying this because it was very short-sighted to engage. And it's not just spinal cord injuries. Any patient, treat them like engage, just inform them, but not increase the feedback loop and just say, hey, I have only this many resources. Why don't I actually ask them meaningfully to change it? And so creating that should have been happening a long time ago, but we're seeing that this is one of the, it's only starting to happen more and more. Bringing those conversations together. What's really cool, Richard, is I think, if I can say this, when we started working together, I think you said that, you're like, I'm not a mentor of startups, right? You're coming with an incredible sports background, incredible leadership background, but now you are, right? I've seen that happen in 2 years, where you're actually coaching them because you have incredible coaching skills to bring it back. Because often coaching is different from being engaged, right? Until the company has heard what your key need is, got to keep coaching them gently back. And they're very lucky to have you and others not only creating products that are better for the community, but making their business plans, the chance of getting to the market, way better. And they've come back, 2 years later, and said that talking to you, Richard, or talking to James, or talking to John, that was the secret ingredient they needed to actually be successful in even raising money, which sounds like it should be obvious, but it isn't. And so more and more I'm hearing stories of that. And I think if we can amplify that impact, where, we already have a number of our founders are people with spinal cord injuries anyway, but the more we can deepen the impact, for us, but not without us, I think it's one step in the journey. They should be happening earlier, and we need to keep stepping up the pace. And we really appreciate the support from Shim's Ride to keep upping the pace. Every extra dollar allows us to power further and reach further.
Yeah, well, thanks, Arushi, and even Matthew. Now that's cue you in that, because you were a cyclist beforehand. I mean, realistically, you now can start making some changes and innovations towards hand cycling. That's how a lot of these different sports and different devices started. Was that somebody became, had a disability and had a change in their life, and they're like, all right, let's design a new bike that was going to make that much easier. I mean, power assist has really changed a lot of different things, and that's opened up so many more doors with hand cycling. Even now, like you said, you tried one when you were first in rehab, so hopefully we can get out some different chairs or different bikes for you to come out and check it out and take a look and try a few different styles and see what works for you.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, directly, I know that I probably wouldn't be able to use my manual wheelchair without my power assist. So that I know, like with innovation like that, I'm very grateful for. And there's other people in rehab that I met, or in my physiotherapy that I met, who have power assist with the same level of injury, and they are able to ride their bike. So yeah, I'm excited for that, and that freedom of like being able to enjoy cycling to some extent again would be fantastic, obviously.
Yeah, there's so many different varieties, so it'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll get a bit of a selection that you can check out. So for everybody else, hand cycling, I don't know if, we didn't really explain that as much. So hand cycling is for somebody with a disability that can get out and ride a bike. So that I would actually, in the name, it makes it pretty obvious that you're now pedaling with your hands. And so there's a hand crank that you're going to use. So rather than using your legs, you're now using your arms. You're usually pretty well lying right down on close to the ground. There's 3 wheels. Either traditional bike would be 1 wheel in the front, 2 in the back, to help you with balance. And then either sitting up, or you can actually, towards more racing, you sort of lie right down to be more aerodynamic. And nowadays they're making a lot of bikes that are out of carbon fiber and as light as possible. So definitely hand cycling racing is technology's really changed that sport also. And so hopefully we'll get a few different bikes that we can check it on out. I think we are going to try to have a previous hand cycling representative from Canada. She was on the Canadian team, so I think she's going to come out and showcase some of her bikes, and we'll see if she showcase some of her skills too out in the race later on the summer. Let's take a look here now. Now, what about, you talked a bit about power assist. What are you utilizing on your manual chair now that's helping you out more?
It's smart drive. It's connected to a watch. So when I double tap my watch, it kind of engages the motor, and I'm able to go up hills or up curbs much easier. And I just double tap to turn it off when I'm, for example, going downhill, or when I don't need to use it. And it's super low profile, so I have the same amount of turn radius and like ease of use in tight spaces. The benefit of, I know there's like a lot of other technologies that you could, for example, one is you could attach to the front of your wheelchair. When I was talking to one of my reps who sells all my equipment, they were also telling me about one that you can control with your hands. But the nice thing about this one is I'm able to easily take it off, bring it with me on a plane. And for example, whenever I'm traveling or going to Victoria, I still have that freedom in a manual wheelchair, whereas in a power wheelchair, traveling with a power wheelchair is way different and a lot more complicated, especially in areas that are not as accessible. For example, when I was like in the States, especially like in the smaller towns, they don't have wheelchair accessible taxis, for example. So transferring over to like a sedan and being able to pack up my wheelchair, obviously a huge advantage. And yeah.
To give a bit more of a take on it too. So a manual chair, on some of the lightest ones are made under 10 pounds, but on average, I'll say between 10 and 20, 25 pounds. And that smart drive that Matthew's talking about, that weighs, another, what is that, 5 to 8 pounds?
Yeah, it's very
under 10
light.
pounds anyway. So it's pretty light. And then a power chair, which on average, I'm sure that could be up to 400 to 500 pounds. And so that makes a huge difference, that if you're even just going into a restaurant looking for a cab, you know, there's a huge difference there, as you just talked about, even just getting into a car, that if you can't find an accessible cab, then sometimes you got to transfer out, and it's much easier to transport your manual chair and smart drive that might only weigh 20 to 30 pounds as compared to, you know, 400 pounds. So that makes it a bit different. And as I mentioned too, just, you know, maybe I'm showing my age, but yeah, when I got injured, you know, things were much more different back then. And, you know, I think the technology with, you know, power assist wheels, the smart drive that's on the, actually, yeah, to give a bit more of an update. So smart drive, it actually attaches to the back of your wheelchair. So it goes underneath you onto your camber bar on your manual chair. And then it gives you sort of an electric wheel that helps you maneuver throughout the day. And so that's, and then you can also now control it. I've seen the evolution of that program too, that, you know, first it was a switch that you turned on and off, but now it's a Bluetooth signal that goes to your watch, and then you just tap it, and that turns it on and off and changes your speed. So that makes it a, you know, technology along those lines has definitely changed throughout the years also. So that's a bit more about it. Now, how much have you known about sports? Like, I know you talked a bit about rugby and maybe cycling and basketball. How much more do you know about Paralympics? Or is that one of your goals, you know, to hopefully, you know, do more and more physio and get stronger, and look into different sports and programs?
I think eventually. Currently I just started university again, so I'm kind of navigating that. And I'm doing a lot of physio. I know because of like the competitive aspect, I would want to probably pursue something like wheelchair rugby. And when I got injured, or a year after I got injured, everything was locked down. So I know all the wheelchair rugby stuff was closed at the moment. But I think at some point I would want to participate in that, because like you mentioned earlier, even with regards to like the community, you learn a lot of stuff from peers, right? It's not everything that they teach you in the medical setting is the best, or not the best, but like there's tips, there's like tricks that are usually better. When, like, for example, when I would chat to one of somebody else who's been injured for a while, they kind of directed me on an easier way to catheterize, which helped me immensely, which I've never would have thought of. And yeah, it's like that.
Yeah,
that's like another reason why I would
I always say
try.
the same too. Yep. For myself, once I got involved into sport, parasport, mainly because, yeah, I was meeting a lot more peers and a lot more athletes that had my same injuries and level and function, and so that's where I learned a lot, yeah, within sport, and, you know, good and bad. But it's, yeah, you find out everybody's got little tricks of their own trade, and that's one of the big things, from traveling to, you know, getting in and out of the bathtub, or, you know, in and out of taxis, and so it's always, yeah, there's always a lot of different tricks that you learn. First, you just get out and enjoy sport, enjoy life, but then also, yeah, you're always learning a lot more too. And so that was one of the big things for me. That's one thing that I always say, sport, you know, not only was great that I love sport, but it taught me a lot too, that I learned a lot from my peers, and even technology and equipment, as you mentioned. Once you go out to different programs, then you'll see, you know, a new bike, new wheels, you know, a new chair, and the new latest and greatest tech that's out there. And nowadays, you know, it's everywhere. And so there's it's a great opportunity to check out what's, you know, not just nationally but globally. You can see there's technologies everywhere.
Yeah, and I feel like probably this like further we get into the future, it's kind of advancing quicker too. For example, in Canada, I had a nerve transfer surgery, and I was the second person to get it done. And previously, they'd never did it before because there wasn't enough studies. And that nerve transfer surgery kind of gave me a little bit of triceps, which obviously triceps is huge given my level of injury with transfers and pushing and everything. So yeah, there's that.
Yep, I think that's medical science has been great, and research has really changed many things. Like even if I had my injury today, then yeah, I could be, I could be walking. There's so many
Yeah.
more things that have changed with medical science, and research has been great. So I know it's tough. I'd say, even within Praxis, we'd say, oh, everybody should be very interested in this, which is tough though. I know everybody goes back home after their injury and sometimes gets back into life. Oh, sorry, that's timer. Our interview's up. I'll turn that phone off. But yeah, it's great that we can find out more and more information as to what's going on, and it's great that you're finding an interest and looking at different innovations and research, because everything is changing all the time. As Arushi talked about earlier, sometimes technology or new innovations could take 10, 20 years. Now we're trying to make that a shorter time, that you can get those devices and different technologies out there to make it a bit easier for people with SCI to access and find out about that stuff. So first, I want to just say hats off to you guys and Sam for organizing the Shim's ride, and we'll definitely see you guys out there on the 30th. It's been great to have you guys out here today, and I'm glad that we can partner up and work together, and hopefully have a good session, a good ride.
Richard and Arushi and everyone at the Praxis team for putting on this chat. It was pretty cool to hear kind of what you guys are doing, and I know a lot of our supporters probably have, they've heard a lot about just us and riding and stuff like that, so it is really good to hear where all the money we're trying to raise is being donated to. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this.
Thank you so much. So excited.
Yeah, thank you very much as well.
Yep, thanks a lot, all guys, for joining us here today, and hopefully everybody else enjoyed this Praxis Fireside chat, and we'll hopefully see you guys soon, and check out any of the information on social media. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.